usual, no matter how much I try to be on top of things, I'm always rushing at the last minute.
You're one of those sliding in on a banana peel kind of guys.
Yeah, God. Yeah, I had worked a lot last night, well, the night before, to get some stuff together, and I needed to get it out the door by about 11:30 because I had to take my wife to an appointment. I pulled the trigger. I looked. Did it go? Yeah, it looks like it went. Today, I can't find any sign that it ever existed. Nowhere in anything I look at. I did send out another notice a few minutes ago that there's a recommendation for Bill Kalla being looked at for superintendent. The Survey Monkey article itself is from 7 years ago, but people are always saying, why didn't they put Bill Kalla in there? Because they were very happy with what he had done when he was interim superintendent.
I'm just piggybacking on what you just said. It's one of the things that, in the district, you hear a lot about that. The board always says they're going to put out a nationwide search for the best candidate, thinking that that's the best approach. Whereas many of us feel that the best approach is to look to the people that know our community and know our families and know our kids and know the organization. And there's definitely conspiracy theories behind it, that they definitely want someone that doesn't know, because that way they'll have some negotiating power over this individual. I don't know anything about that, but I do know that I do agree with the camp that feels that, we have a lot of talent here.
Mm-hmm.
That would do a great job.
Yeah, it's sad to see that things, I can't say I was wild about some of the proposals that Leslie came up with, but I would have liked to have seen some stability there, and was kind of sad when I heard, gee, they're working to give another superintendent the heave-ho.
I wasn't following this very closely myself. Was she forced to step down, or did she choose? Like, what was the reasoning?
Well, they haven't said a whole lot about it that I've heard, but it sounded like they were the ones who were initiating it. The fact that the budget didn't get approved the right way was one bad mark against her, and the other one was the fiasco of the proposal of reshuffling just about half the schools in the district. And my take is the less you disturb the schools, unless you're really putting something good in there, but most of the things that were being proposed seemed like they were just an upheaval for the given schools.
I apologize for that. I had to take a quick call.
Yeah, yeah. Usually I have Eleanor Coleman. Phyllis Moss. Thank gosh. Very good.
I was trying to see if I could do this on the couch, but apparently I can't do this on the couch.
Oh, you got some friends there?
Got some buddies.
Oh, that's all right.
Oh, cute. Two of them,
they
too.
They can give their opinions on things.
They're a handful, but, they're mine.
I know. I'll be lucky if mine doesn't end up barking later. He hasn't come down yet this time. Hey, Phyllis. How you doing?
Gotta unmute myself. I'm fine. How are you?
Good, good.
I wasn't sure you were going to have your meeting tonight. I thought that I got a notice that there was another meeting somewhere.
No, yeah, yesterday I was up. You know me, I'm a night owl. I'll stay up until. So, anyways, I spent most of the night before getting stuff ready for something I wanted to get out an announcement about this meeting, a few more bits and pieces of information, and I thought I had gotten it out just before I left for an appointment with Marion, but somehow the email screwed up. And I mean, I'm watching it, and I had sent it, and it was thinking about it, and then it looked like it had gone, because if I looked at my sent mail, there it was. And then today I can't find it anywhere. So that's probably why you didn't hear anything yesterday, which usually I tried to send something out the day before the event to let people know we're still alive. But so anyways, today we have an agenda. We'll go through the first few things in there. It'll give you all background if you haven't heard the issues before. And if you've got your mail available, I sent out a letter just about half an hour ago that talks about Bill Calla, who isn't even on the agenda here, because that's something I just heard today. And also it talks about our Senator Samra Brouk and various people that are part of our Rochester delegation in Albany, and how important it is to keep them there, because they've made a big difference in what can get passed as far as school legislation goes. A community site coordinator at Wilson Magnet. She's new to Wilson Magnet, and there's also a new community site coordinator at Wilson Foundation, which is the school a little bit north of Wilson Magnet. And they know each other, and we've gotten them talking. And the thing that I was interested in Wilson Magnet was to try to get them to possibly get some students to work with the 19th Ward Community Association, which is going through strategic planning for the next few years about what should the 19th Ward Community Association do in the area. We've got a community association that has, on paper at least, somewhere north of 700 members, which is pretty good for community associations, because there are some that, it's the president and the vice president that are the association. You know, they have a fundraiser each year, which is Square Fair, and a few other sources of income, so they're always working very hard to stay ahead of the game as far as the amount of money they have to work with. They have a half-time staff member at the organization, and so they're looking into possibly saying, what should we do to be, as much in tune with what the community needs? How could we possibly apply for funds if there's some project that looks like we should do it? So they talked with a group that will either fund a 3-month exploration, and then when you're done, at least you've had the experience of going through that process, or they can have a 6-month process that when you're through, you really have the opportunity to apply for funds either through that group or wherever. And that was the one that we were saying, gee, if we do that, we could maybe try to get some young people in there, because the association does tend to have a propensity of gray hair in it. So it would be nice to do that. The school coordinator agreed that would be nice. It would be September before they'd be able to work that out, and that will work quite well with what the association is trying to do, because they're just starting to get things rolling. So hopefully we'll do that, because I'm always uneasy that we don't get young people involved with community affairs enough. And so it's, we'll see how that works out. Local busing update. We did talk, Senator Samra Brouk, who is Democratic senator from the section just east of the east side of Rochester. And if you have the that letter I just sent out, there's a link to it that describes the district for each of these people. There are 6 people. There's a link in that letter that I sent out that says Rochester Area State Delegation Majority Members. It's a graphic that Bronson had originally put out back a year ago, showing the people that were running with him from the various districts around here. The only district that we don't have is the one that I'm in. I'm still in the district that was Ranzenhofer's district a year or so ago. There's another guy in there now. All these other 6 people, and they include Assemblymember Bronson, Jeremy Cooney, Meeks, Clark, Lunsford, and Samra Brouk. And they all supported the half-mile busing legislation, which we've been pushing for getting short-distance busing for 10 years now, with the idea being that right now the 1.5 mile requirement that the state gives for reimbursing busing is encouraging people to ship their kids 1.5 miles or 2 miles away just to get them the safety of busing. Now, some of them have worked carefully looking at what school would be better for their child, but it's not always. There are fewer great schools that people really would want to send their child to on the other side of town. There are fewer spaces in those schools than there are people applying for them, so eventually a majority of the kids end up in a school that's probably not much different than the one 3 blocks away. But if you're afraid of your child walking 3 blocks away, and in the last year especially, there's been so much violence that is a concern. You'd like to have them offer to bus them a block and a half away, whether I'd like to see them, if it's at all advantageous for the child, bus them. We're busing about 80% of the kids now, and they're going 1.5 miles or more away. There are some that are within that 1.5 miles because they try to fill up the buses as they come into a school, but the problem that we have with this crosstown busing is parents often can't get to the school when there's an event. And if you don't have a car in Rochester and you're depending on making bus connections, that can be a real problem. I haven't tried using the buses since they've redone the routes and stuff, but it's likely to be a difficulty that we'd like to overcome, because you'd like to have students at the school feel like, gee, this is their school. They know, they make friends, they go home, they play with the friends they've made because they're in the neighborhood, and it builds up a sense of neighborhood. And parents get to know one another because Johnny and Ralph are playing together every day, and now they tend to come together to go to the aid of the school if there's a problem. And that's one of the reasons that School 16 got saved, was that some of us who were in the neighborhood and had worked a bit with that school, when we heard, gee, they were closing it, we said, oh, crap. They always are trying to do this, close the school, and if nobody objects, it stays closed. So we came together 10 years ago to fight that, and now we're trying to make sure that all the schools that are reopening are doing so with a really good program at their core. So having our dream team delegation here in Albany for next year is important, and some of them are up for re-election this fall. So take a look at that graphic and keep track of what's going on there. They could stand some assistance, I'm sure. And Bronson has been there for years, and I've gotten together with him and some of the various school committees several times in the past, and he said, no, we're not going to be able to get short distance busing. There just isn't the support for it. And this year, gee, they introduced it before we even got after them to do it. So it's makes a big difference as to who's in there. So the bills for, if you look at item number 4 on the agenda, there's the Assembly bill and the Senate bill for the half-mile busing. And there's also some legislation that I know is in there also, and it's pertaining to changes in the Receivership Law. And I've been trying to get somebody to really explain to me all the details of what the pluses were, and each time I think I'm going to get somebody to do this, they kind of disappear on me. But I think basically what it does is, the existing law is that if the school is not performing up to the level that the state requires, doesn't pass all the tests that they put them through, they'll put them into receivership, and that means the initial receivership is there in receivership to the superintendent of the school, and the superintendent has some extra clout as to what they can require a school to do, so they can extend the school day or require that X percentage of the teachers be shuffled around. Some of the things that gives them are things that are good, like they get a CE team, community engagement team, and I've been on several of those, and it's basically people from the community and support groups that come together once a month with the school and give their opinions as to how things are going. The school gives them a review of what they've done to improve things. And I remember at School 44, which is no more right now, I was on a receivership team there with John Lang, and when the school got out of receivership, they stopped having their CET teams, meeting every month, and I just, you suddenly realize you don't know what's going on there because you're not getting regular reports. And one of the things I've been suggesting to some of the teams that I'm working with now is please keep this going afterwards, because we really want the community to keep having the necessary feedback from the school to keep people interested in what's going on there. So the change in receivership law, I think, basically lets those schools that are in receivership still have to meet the requirements, but they're not calling it receivership, and there are some changes that I think make the process more of a constructive process rather than one that emphasizes the punitive aspect of receivership, which would be good. Because there are many schools that, really benefit from being in receivership because they really do get the inspiration needed to work more properly. 19th Ward Schools Committee, that is Phyllis. Did you have something you wanted to bring up, Phyllis, at the meeting here?
Only that we're not meeting on Tuesday because I'm going to be out of town.
Yes, you're going to have it the 9th, is it?
Yes, the meeting will be on the 9th instead of the 2nd. And I guess the biggest thing is that we're trying to pull together after school programming to help our kids with their reading. It looks like School 10 is going to allow Lee to come back into the school and do tutoring. I'm actually starting a program of my own. I was going to start it at my home, but I'm actually working with the Urban League, thanks to Karen. And they gave me an idea for doing something online. I'm a little out of breath. Doing something online, which I'm really excited about. And then I got the email that you sent me from the young lady that's looking for students as well. So I just think it's a good idea if we just pool all the resources, make them available to parents so the kids can get help, because they do need help after the pandemic and even before that. So that's kind of where we are.
Okay, great. I'll make sure I give you all the links to the minutes from the various meetings, because I document those meetings, or I put links to all the minutes for the Southwest Common Council Education Committee, the 19th Ward Schools Committee, and also the Rochester Coalition for Public Education. I've got some pages that list all of those, and you can click on them and find out what that month's meeting was about. Some of them have links to videos of the meetings, so if you're ever interested in looking through all the things we've been involved in, you can have some fun.
There's a lot going on.
There's a lot.
Gotta pick
Our
and
meetings
choose.
go back to 2012, so let's see. Next we have Schools Committee, Learning and Exploring at Play, LEAP. And that brings us to Mary Beth, who is from, well, why don't you go ahead and tell us about your program? And
Sure. I work at the University of Rochester and the Center for Community Engagement, and we run a program on Saturdays for K through 4th graders on campus. And we are catering to families who might not be able to otherwise afford an enrichment program. It is a 3-hour program from 9:30 to 12:30. Parents can either drop kids off there, or if you live close to School 33 up in the Northeast, We do have a bus that transports kids from there. But yeah, we try to engage the kids on science and math and reading and social studies and art and different things like that through games, activities, experiments, all of that. So we are not teaching to New York State curriculum. It's not a formal teaching program at all. It is really more to hopefully get kids excited about learning and build up their confidence and their problem solving and breaking things down and like those skills that you can use in your educational setting. We try our best to link the kids up one-on-one or two-on-one with our tutors. They don't actually do tutoring, but that's what we call our staff members for this program on Saturdays. And we still have about 20 spots left. We're kind of in a building up year because we were small the last couple of years with the pandemic because of all the distancing and all of that. But we are taking more kids still. So if you know families, I mean, we don't really hold spots for any one school. We usually end up serving like 12 to 15 schools across the city. I mean, because we're really working with the kids that want to register, the families that want to register. So I had included a flyer. I'm happy to share that again, but it has a registration link that parents can go to register their kids. Or there's also like a QR code you can scan if people want to register. I would say I've had a couple questions about this recently, and it is an enrichment program. It helps the kids' learnings. It helps their confidence. If you have a student, we often get calls from families and parents that need like subject specific tutoring. My staff is not trained to do that. Like none of them are going into teaching. Like occasionally there's one or two, but they do go through a class to learn how to plan lessons and set objectives and how to work well with the kids. But they are not trained as like subject specific tutors. So I would never recommend that. But unfortunately, I actually don't know of anyone at U of R that does that. I keep telling the Warner School of Education that there's a really strong need for that. And they're thinking about ideas. But yeah, so Saturdays at U of R, we were happy to have some more people that might want to sign up. So again, I can share the flyer and like, please pass it along to families that you might know that are interested.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You mentioned you've got maybe 20 slots open right now. If there are more kids than that interested, I think in something that you sent, you said something about possibly opening up new classes.
Yeah, we're in a kind of a strange year after the pandemic because we have lost most of our staff members. So it just depends on how many staff members we get. At this point, I think we could take 20 more kids. If I get a deluge of people that apply, our staff members are undergraduate students at the University of Rochester. So if we get a lot of really great applicants, there is a chance we may open another class or two. Also, we keep a waiting list as well. Like we'll keep a waiting list because some of our families, usually our families stick with us from K through 4th grade and then they age out. But sometimes people sign up in April and then, things change before October and September. So we always keep a list of other people that have signed up. If some kids don't end up coming, we'll, let them know they're going to lose their place if they don't come in the next week or two and place other people in there. So there is a chance. At this point, I'm not projecting we'll add other classes, but it's a possibility, and we would certainly welcome additional names, and we will keep those names. It's more of a first come, first served basis, and then we'll notify parents if we do have space for more kids. Yeah.
Okay. Good. Well, I'm surprised we don't have some of the community organizers from some of the local schools here today, but given the fact that I kind of screwed up yesterday getting the last minute reminder out, that may be it out. These iPads.
It's actually been helpful because I reached out to a number of them anyway myself, but then when you linked me to them, I got even more questions. So I think even just the emails help in that way because I've had conversations with a few more of them too. So thanks.
Okay, well, we just caught a couple more here. Hey, Lee, how you doing?
Hello, John. Sorry I'm late. I've been in transit for the last hour. So
I know. It seems like we have a lot of people moving around. Lee is heading up the tutor program over at School 10. So if you...
Hello, Mary Beth. Hello, Alicia. Hello, Phyllis. Long time no see.
Yeah.
I just met with Michelle White at School 10 yesterday, actually. So I was over there.
Okay.
Lots of great work going on. So thank you, Lee, for your work with them as well.
Well, I haven't done anything in almost 3 years, but I make noisy good intentions and people seem to respond to that. So we actually are going to get our tutors back in the school face to face with Cooper scholars, hopefully by early October, once the teachers have a chance to scope out and see who needs what. They've hired an extra special ed teacher to do some screening of all 6 years of 7 actually, I guess, of students. And once they have them divided into theoretically groups of 6, I'll believe it when I see it. I think there's going to be a lot more people needing tutoring. But anyhow, what we do is what they ask us to do.
Okay, Alicia Evans, you want to say a few words?
Greetings, everyone. My name is Alicia Evans, and I'm a parent. I just posted my work in the chat, but I'm a parent of 2 graduates of the Rochester City School District and 1 current. She's a rising senior. We live in the 19th Ward, and I am the Healthy Schools Project Coordinator for Healthy Kids at Common Ground Health. And the buckets of work that we focus on are healthy food and nutrition, physical activity, and wellness policies. And we just actually had a work group of several parents and stakeholders in the community come together with Healthy Kids actually last June. And we came up with 20 recommendations presented to the Wellness Task Force. And the board actually adopted all 20 recommendations last month. So that was a win for us for the local wellness policy. We do a lot with Play Rocks in the community. That's an initiative of Healthy Kids and the Play Rocks committee that consists of parents, partners, community members, and has many different sites throughout Rochester. The last Play Rocks was on July 23rd, which was this past Saturday, and there will be another one being held on August 6th. So you can go to Healthy Kids website, or you can go and just Google Healthy Kids, healthy with an I, in Facebook, and search out the August 6th information, because there's many different sites all over the community. And I know that there's been some activity with that on the west side, on the southwest side. So I don't have all the sites listed because I'm not doing most of that work, but I wanted to make sure I brought it to the table for anybody that wants it. And John, I can forward anything along to you, and then you can disseminate to the larger body to share that out. So yeah, that's a little bit about me, and yeah. Thank you.
Okay, well, I see we've also got James Patterson that has joined us. James is on the board of the City School District. You want to say hi and introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello. I just popped in for a little bit. I have a meeting at 7 myself to get to, but I saw there's some discussion relative to Bill Kala's name being thrown around. So I had also offered his name even as the interim, but didn't have any luck there. So I will again be requesting that he be a part of the big search for and I'll be talking to Bill also. I know him from Fairport. But just to make sure he is interested. Has anyone talked to him? And I'm sorry to throw you off, but I only have a few minutes before I have to
that's okay.
jump out. But has anyone talked to him to see what his interests is rather?
Well, he's on the list of folks that the Rochester Coalition for Public Education sends out their information to, and a few times in the course of the last several years. He's joined a meeting here and there, but I haven't talked to him directly, and I think it's time to maybe make a few phone calls. Yeah. Everything I've heard about him, somebody mentioned that, the petition that I sent out there, which describes all the people who like him and why, is 7 years old, because he comes up regularly as somebody that everybody would like to get in there, but for some reason, he came in as an alternate, an interim superintendent once, and seemed to have everybody happy with what he was doing. I saw some reference in one note. Was there a problem between him and one or two of the board members that you're aware of?
I'm not aware of it, but I did sense some pushback.
Mm-hmm.
I'll put it that way. But no one said what the issue was.
Yeah.
But if he's interested, I'm still going to throw his name in.
Oh yeah, I think he would.
And
be
hopefully
great.
he'll submit.
Everybody that I talk to says that he has such a good understanding of all the issues that he would be great. So,
But I do hope he's one of the applicants, though. But
Yeah. yeah.
and we'll take it from there.
All righty. Well, I'm glad to hear
All right.
that.
Okay, but I just thought I'd pop in real quick. For those who don't know me, again, I'm in Commissioner Patterson. Call me James. I'm not into titles or anything like that. So, but I'm glad I could pop in at least, let you know that he would also have my support if he was interested.
Great. That's
All right.
good to know.
Any questions for me from anyone before I go?
Probably nothing you can tell us other than what the hell happened again.
Unfortunately, there's, the attorneys are handling things, and they've told us, please, don't say anything. Did I think, though, to be, and quite honest, and being transparent, that, this I can say that I proposed that we had gotten out there in front of the camera and at least let them know that we do have a plan, right? So I didn't want anyone thinking, that we were dysfunctional, that we just off the cuff, this thing occurred or happened, and we didn't have a plan. So there is a plan in place, and that's as much as I can say.
Okay, well, I'm glad
All
to
right.
hear that, and we'll be in touch hopefully more often in the coming weeks. And also, one of the things I've been pushing is we've got a pretty good team in Albany right now with the assembly members and the senators that are part of the majority, so that it's some stuff has moved further than it usually does. So hopefully we can keep them in place. And they were also referred to in that letter about Bill Calla. There's our dream team in Albany. We want to make sure we keep them there. So worth.
I'm also hoping that our representatives, both local and state, weigh in on, including, our educational commissioner, Rosa, that they'll also weigh in on, the type of individual they want, as our next superintendent. And hopefully that superintendent will be here long term.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm really hoping. And when it gets down to a selection, that's going to be one of my questions. That are you in it for the long run? Are you willing to move into our community? That's a big thing for me. That all those tax dollars are, going out when they reside somewhere else. So that's very important to me, that the next superintendent, be willing to, live within our community, or move into our community. So that being said, I got to run because I'll be speeding. And I don't want to get a ticket.
Okay.
All right, but nice
James.
seeing everyone.
Thank you so
And,
much for joining us.
All right. You guys take care. Have a good night.
Take care. Okay. Well, that was good to hear from them, and that reminds me of something I need to do is get a hold of our dream team and pass that on to them, that having them speak out as to, whether they know Bill Kalla or not, we need to make sure that people know who some of the players are that we need to keep in the game here.
Well, can I ask a question before we move on?
Yeah.
I don't want to assume that I know the answer to this question. Well, why are we getting a new superintendent?
Well,
Is that the you wanted to ask that he can't answer?
he can't answer it, but I think that the fact that the budget that was given the board was not correct, and there had to be some reworking, and that shouldn't have happened. Of course, it's better than what we've run into in some years in the past, but still, that was a no-no. And then the proposal that the superintendent gave for reworking some of the schools, they were going to close school 29 and split the kids from that school between school 19, I forget what the other school was, and the people who were involved with it looked at it and said, gee, that's not going to be in the interest of those kids, because the whole school has a very close-knit structure to it. And there were just a lot of, anytime you make a change to a school, there's going to be some disruption to that school, even if the intention is to improve
If I
it.
may, on this one, John, if I can just jump in.
Yes, please.
School 19 was just one example of the many schools that were going to be restructured, were affected in the restructuring. And there was also, in addition to what you were mentioned, there was that vote the RTA had of no confidence in the superintendent. So there were several different bodies of stakeholders that were really showing great dissatisfaction with the leadership.
Yeah, and I don't know, maybe I'm not sure how much of what Leslie was proposing was being pushed her, on her from the state overseer there, or how much was her own. I don't know. It seemed like an awful lot of the things would have probably hurt the schools and favored some of the private schools that are eating our lunch in terms of taking kids away from the city school district. But I don't know.
Yeah, I'm aware of all those things. I just didn't think it was, they were serious enough to get her terminated. I'm just surprised at that.
Right. At least finishing out the contract. Right. Yeah. I would say that it is surprising, and it's curious, which, so it does make you wonder if there's more than what we saw in the board meetings and all of that going on. It had to be terribly difficult for her and her staff when they were being investigated, and they were proven innocent at, at least according to the investigation. But it's been a very troubled administration from the beginning. And I mean, having to deal with COVID and all that, it hasn't been an easy road.
Yeah. So that's, as much as I know right now, and learned a few things from Alicia here. What, buddy? Come on over here. No? Well, go talk to mommy. My dog is looking for something, probably the next meal. He has a very good timekeeping mechanism, right? So, let's see, what do we got next? Rochester Coalition for Public Education. They've been, as those of you who are part of, have ever attended them, they keep your inbox well fed with information from various people who, send them something, and Dan will forward it out to everyone. And what is particularly bad is when you get a whole string of answers to this email and then that email and that email, and each one of those comes in. But they are a very good bunch, a lot of past superintendents, past principals and teachers, and people like Lee and I and Phyllis, who are interested in keeping track of what's going on. But they've been, I've learned a lot working with them, but the other one that we've worked a lot with is the Citizens Action Education Committee. They also work with AQE, and they've been trying to coordinate some of the other groups in town to put on some demonstrations to try to get people out there holding signs and bringing attention to the problems. I'm sure right now they're trying to regroup and figure out how to pursue their goals within the changing environment that is going on. But they've been a good, Jalil Muntaquin, who is heading up the part of that organization, is doing a nice job of pointing out some of the institutional racism that is in the system that we're working with, and how we need to improve that. So there's a lot of good things that are intertwined that are coming out of some of these efforts. The RASE Forum, I was at one yesterday online, and they've got some coming up. I think there's a plan for doing something on 8/17. That probably gets us to the walk-in items, which I thought Bill Calla would probably work into that. Does anybody have experience with Bill Calla or anything that they can bring to the table here?
I don't, but I've heard good things about him.
Yeah. Have you run into him at all, Lee?
No, I have not, but I've only heard good things about him over the years. He was pretty much a star when he was superintendent in Fairport, and I'm sure dealt with a lot of issues very astutely, insightfully. He seems to be popular with not just the students, but the parents and the communities that he's touched, and he's managed to stay very involved, I think, more or less as an advisor to things since he retired. And I think he's probably been out of the business 10 years at least, anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I know that Dan Dermesage, interacts with him easily or frequently. it would be interesting to actually discuss this at the next meeting of the coalition. Let's see, we're 6:57. That's pretty good. The other thing that I had sent out there were the minutes from our last meeting, which I think we've followed up on all the things that we had first discussed there, and it describes a bit what Jalil Muntaquin is had planned. There was a meeting on the 13th, which I was hoping to go to, and I thought they'd have a Zoom way into it, but it turned out they didn't, so I missed it. But I think I'll try to catch the August 17th one. And Alicia.
Yes.
Yes, community school site coordinator, my gosh. What have you heard?
I think you're referring to Alicia. We've got Alicia
And Alicia, yes.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Well, I've got.
What school are you the site coordinator at?
At Big Wilson Magnet.
Yeah, Big
Oh,
Wilson.
nice. Okay,
Mhm.
awesome. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I was.
Yeah, we'll have to connect.
Yes. My work is primarily with K-8, but I still would love to connect with you because we're delving into some adolescent work and youth mental health work, and I'd love to connect with you about that.
That would be tremendous. Yeah, I wrote down your contact info when you put it up
Yes.
earlier. So thank you for that.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
So
Good to meet you.
on the Wilson, when do you think you'd have an idea of what kids we might have available for working with the 19th Ward?
Well, I discussed that with, as luck would have it, with the student government guide today. And so what we're hoping is that the student government kids will be able to participate in that. However, I requested earlier in terms of what their participation would be, because to be honest with you, John, and I don't mean this to offend anyone at all, for a kid to just sit in and watch the adults talk, that's not what I want for them. So I would really want to know specifically what their role would be, and I don't want it to be an observer. So I'd like to talk with you more about that, about what our vision is for what these student bodies and minds are going to be doing and what we'd like to do is have that, but have that be a formal position, right? Like what are we going to, are there our student ambassadors perhaps, or our scholar representatives, but I think we should really make that something where they are not just there as a token, but that they are actually having a seat at the table.
That's exactly what I'm thinking too, that I've tried getting students from teen empowerment to some of the Southwest Common Council meetings, and that was almost had to wake them up, I think, because we tolerate a lot of things as adults that the kids just aren't into. So it would probably be good. I've got to check with Karen Emerson, the president. I saw her yesterday, and they've got some meetings coming up, planning on how to get things started, and it would be good if you can join us perhaps at some of those meetings. Or
Yes, I would be happy to. Let's, you and I can circle back on that next week. I'd be very happy to do that.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Is there anything else that somebody wanted to bring up?
Well, Lee Loomis has just spotted an opportunity to recruit more tutors for Dr. Walter Cooper Academy. Alicia Fonseca, do you think there'd be an opportunity for upper class kids at Wilson Magnet to be persuaded that spending an hour a week with kids in the first, second, third, fourth grade at Cooper, trying out their skills as tutors to see whether or not they might want to follow
Yes.
careers as
You
teachers?
don't even have to finish. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I would love to talk to you about that. Our kids, they really do have hearts of service. Don't let those exteriors fool you. They have hearts of service, and they would love to do that. Lee, please, let's talk about that. Let's put that together.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, I guess I'll put my contact information in the chat, and you can circle back to me. That would be outstanding. I would love to do that with you.
Yeah, I don't have chat ability with my iPad, so if there's a way to get it into the minutes of today's meeting.
We'll do that. Let me make sure
Here's another thought too. The upperclassmen, don't they have to do a certain number of hours of community service? Couldn't that count for that as well?
Yes, it could. Thanks for bringing that up. And I had conversations with the counselors about that. So that's something that's generally not run by the counselor, but run by the specific individual teachers. But it would be great if we could offer that to the teachers so that they could distribute to their kids. And you know what I mean? So it's not just, so the kids will be getting the information in several different places about that opportunity.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that most of the schools in the area, are working hard trying to make sure that the kids who have just gone through these 2 years of disruption don't fall through the cracks, because if they don't get their reading skills up mighty fast, it's going to be bad news for them. I'll make sure that I get your contact information out to all the school site coordinators, and Phyllis is looking at working with, tutoring for some of the schools. So we'll try to make sure everybody's in the loop for things that would be beneficial to them. And that's hopefully going to work out well for everybody involved. I know Stella Wang, who is also at U of R, she's done a lot of work in the community, bringing students from some of her classes out to the various businesses in the area to get them to get a feel for what's going on in the community around the university. And so anything that we can do to make sure that all these bright kids that are in our midst right now at the school participate in the community and hopefully decide to stick around and be part of that community is in everybody's best interest. So, that said...
Can I ask a question before you close?
Yes, go ahead.
Well, I have a comment and then a question. I think my goal is probably not going to be in the schools, but I don't know for sure, but it's looking like my market will probably be like latchkey kids who are home and maybe their parents are working and they're on Zoom with me for a couple of hours. So, so Lee's going to hopefully be in the schools. U of R, that's on Saturdays. I'm going to go reach out to kids that are home. So I say that to say, I think what would be good is if we collected information about aftercare that's available. I don't see us competing against each other. Rochester, we tend to do that, compete for grant money and all that kind of stuff. But if we could kind of work together and pool those resources and make them available, that information available to parents, I think that will really be helpful to our students. And I also wanted to ask you, John, your meeting is every fourth Wednesday?
Yes.
Okay. And then the CET meeting is on, are they having CET meetings
I don't
for
think
Wilson?
they've got
during the
any
summer?
right now. I don't know. What are you doing over at Wilson Magnet? Are you having any CET meetings or?
So, since we just got the position on July 1st, we've been in the process of assembling our team. So it's almost fully assembled, but it hasn't been assembled yet to be able to have our first meeting. So our first meeting is scheduled for the third week of August the 22nd. And that'll be just like an initial thing. And then, in September, we'll really get rolling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm trying to assemble a list of all the meeting dates so that we cannot miss any. So I just want to put together like a calendar of all the.
That would be very helpful. I mean, and thank you for saying so, because that'll put a little fire under my toes to plan out for the year what the dates will be. Sorry.
Yeah, that's one of the things that, we'll get a notice there's going to be CET meetings, and we'll settle on the first Tuesday or whatever, and then that gets changed during the day. But meanwhile, I've got it on my calendar for quite a while, and that eventually I get to the point of saying, is that a real meeting? I don't see a Zoom link yet, but so it would be good if we have a central calendar somewhere that we can reference so that we know when the various teams are meeting.
I can do that for sure. Thanks for bringing it up.
Yeah, and as you talk with any of the other site coordinators, that would be very helpful.
I'm thinking Lizelle would probably have like a master list, right, Alicia?
Yeah, you'd think so, yeah.
Yeah, no, she probably does. I mean, there's a centralized drive where we put all of our documents in, so she has access to everything we do.
Yeah, I was thinking, just so you're not reinventing the wheel.
Yeah.
As long, there's something that already exists.
Yeah, because I would meet her very frequently because we usually went to the same meetings. I had been following 5 CET teams in the area, and Lizelle was there every time, so she's probably got a central calendar.
I have one other thing to share, and then I'm going to be quiet. Kelly Briggs invited me to be a guest at 4 PDs that she's done over the last couple of weeks on asset mapping. And I'm going to see if I can get the information that she shared during those sessions. But our numbers are just really not looking that bad. I mean, compared to other zip codes, of course. But I was pretty impressed that, in terms of attendance and things like that. I mean, we're not doing great, but we're not doing as bad as I thought we were doing. So I'll try to get those numbers so I can share them with everybody if she will allow me to have them.
Okay, great. Okay, well, anything else? Going once? Going twice? Okay. Well, we'll call it a wrap. Eleanor, as I think I mentioned earlier, but you weren't all there. Eleanor Coleman, who is my scribe, who keeps me going. If it weren't for her, I would have thrown my hands up and stopped this a long time ago. But she's a sweetheart and is the soul behind many of the groups that are working in Rochester. She takes the notes for the meetings, so she'll be looking at the recording of this meeting to write up some notes. But she's here in spirit. Actually, she's over at Frontier Field right now. But. Okay. Thank you
Thanks,
very
everyone.
much. And it's been a
Thank
pleasure
you.
talking with all of you.
Bye. Good night.
Take care.